Hey, Max, if there's anyone in the hallway, would you like to invite them in? If there's an... Oh. So, I would like to vote this seminar the most fun seminar I've been into a long time, right? It's always good to laugh and cry together, so thank you so much. So before we start this afternoon's session, I just want to make a couple of announcements just to make sure that while we still have energy and room inside our brains, that we can receive this information. But here's a flyer. This is happening next Sunday. We're celebrating Earth Day at Morning Garden. And we're going to have a sermon, like a message at 9:30, which is a very guest-friendly message. And then we're going to have a day of service and help clean up at Morning Garden. With all the storms that have happened recently, there are a lot of downed trees. So if you own, what's that thing you call when you cut down trees? Chainsaw, thank you. If you own a chainsaw and you know how to use it, bring it. I just yesterday found some great gloves on sale. We have work gloves. And so anyway, come wearing clothes that you can work in. And let's just go and help the Gloucester community by cleaning up Morning Garden. There'll be work inside the house as well as work outside the house. We'll have a barbecue. Please bring a side dish. And we can just have a lot of fun. This is a great thing to invite a guest to because you can get close to each other, you know, working together side by side. So awesome program coming up.
The last 2 years was great.
Yeah.
Great soon.
Yeah. So anyway, if you can please email me if you're coming, because I need to RSVP to Gloucester, because they're going to do a barbecue, so they know how many people are coming. So it's really important that you let us know if you're coming or not. And then I just want to tell you about another upcoming program on May 12th, Saturday, May 12th. It's going to be here. Thank you so much to the Worcester family community for hosting. And we're going to be looking at the 5 steps to the blessing, what they mean, and how to explain it. Because that's always the tough one, right? And we're very fortunate we have 2 pastors who are going to be joining us who are ready to receive that. You're welcome to bring a guest, but only if they've had enough divine principle education to understand the 3-day ceremony, because we will be talking about that. But I'd like to invite you to come, because in sharing about the blessing, you need to be able to explain it to people. And recently I've had a couple of experiences sharing about the 3-day ceremony. So we really need to understand how to communicate that so people can experience the value of the blessing. Amen. So I've got a couple of resources I just wanted to bring your attention to that are on the table outside. There's More Than Marriage. This doesn't have an explanation of the 3-day ceremony in detail, but it does talk about the 5 steps. And so if you want to share with a friend or family member, this may help you. There are some on the book table. And then also, this is another resource, Lasting Imprint. This was filmed at a 1-day workshop given by Reverend Shanker. And we took the workshop and divided it into 20 to 25-minute sessions. And then I created a study guide to go along with this so that after each, you can watch it with your guest. And after each session, there are 3 questions that you can dialogue around, which is great. You don't have to think of the questions. They're there for you. And also some Hundok pieces that go with that particular section. So if you want to teach Divine Principle to a friend and you don't have a workshop to take them to, or this is the best method for you, these are $20. They're on the table outside, and you can get one. And sometimes I just watch it myself for fun. You know, it's very entertaining, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so deep. I have to tell someone about this. So anyway, just those resources are available, and I hope to see you on the 22nd, and you're welcome to come on May 12th too. Yes? Oh, and the 26th is the Holy Blessing right here, and you have 3 couples, right? Wow. So this is... Yeah.
We can come, but at the same time, we can also do the regular blessing that like couples who are not official. We can just do the Holy Blessing.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually every couple's official, really. I mean, like they. So if you have a couple that's ready to receive just the holy wine and the sprinkling, the water, receive the prayer and say the vows, they can come and join in the ceremony, huh? And it'll be a beautiful ceremony. They're putting a lot of effort into making it like a gorgeous ceremony, so it's a great opportunity. Thank you. All right.
Thank you, Heather. Round of applause for Heather. Thank you. Great leadership. Thank you. I like the way you thought of bringing a guest to the cleanup. That's brilliant. It's an easy way to bond. Get other people to help clean up our garden. So, all right. Is anybody interested in looking at this a little bit? Sure. Yes. All right, so let's go to page 29 for a second. Thank you for a wonderful lunch, by the way. I realized that the sandwiches taste extra good when you put the vinegar. You just put the vinegar in the sandwich with mayonnaise. Good tip next time you have a Subway. All right, page 29. This is a little special note. This is something most people know, but it's good, especially with unificationists. Unificationists need a little bit more time on this one, so I dedicated an entire page. Many of us are familiar with the expression, offer up your Isaac. Raise your hand if you've ever heard that before. Okay. So it's easy to assume that this means living a life of sacrifice, but if we actually reference the story of Abraham and Isaac, sacrifice is not supposed to be forever. So there's a cute little picture. You know the moment. So you know what happened here, right? Yeah. Does anybody not know the story? Yeah. Everybody knows the story. We just saved 30 seconds. So let's go to the next page. Where we fit in. Many of us don't necessarily know how to joyfully and successfully contribute our talents for the greater good. Either we have denied our unique abilities in favor of supporting the providence, or we've achieved success in our careers and struggle to contribute our gifts in a meaningful way. Now, these aren't the only, some of us have maybe figured out how to do this. So this is for those of us that are still figuring it out. Now, as we settle, the time has surely come to harness the power of both personal and whole purpose working together as originally planned. So the point here is, I remember when I joined, I remember people telling me things like, oh, I used to love playing trumpet. I used to be pretty good. Or, I was going to go into horticulture. Oh boy, how I loved. Now they're in a New York City apartment and they've got a wilted plant on the window ledge. Or, music was my thing. I wanted to be a musician. But all I know is, every holy song in the book back to front on my guitar, and I stopped writing songs, something. It's not all of us, but many of us have this type of thing, a little bit, right? Anybody in this room, does that apply to you? You had other dreams? So, again, we're more than a church. As unificationists, we are responsible for much more than building a nice, cozy church. We have a kingdom to build, which has lots of components beyond the church walls. Although most of us have defined roles at this stage in our life, we can keep our eyes open to the unique ways in which we feel called to contribute. We aim to develop our families as witness within our immediate community, but there is also a whole world that seeks our attention. If we think about our passions and strengths, we can become even more effective in our impact on society. True Mother refers to this realm as the witnessing environment. You've heard of this a lot, right? Witnessing environment. So we just talked a little bit before about this. This isn't a particularly, scientific approach. Just you know who you are, right? When you consider your either maybe the area where you work or where you feel called to work or contribute. And I'm talking, all of us here in the room essentially have some connection to the religious sphere, right? But what we're talking about here is potentially other skills. So especially for Kodan sisters, you have to find something other than just witnessing as your central passion. I know that many workshops, this is like the 15th workshop, and sometimes just stick to that. This is a witnessing workshop. Witnessing is my passion, my life, my strength. But, witnessing in what way? You realize, actually, I really like art and culture and music. That's why I like to witness with, tea ceremonies or dance, drum parties or whatever, right? That's the thing I want you to be able to honor and acknowledge. So first I want you to think of the 2 or 3 areas you feel most called to work in. Just how did God cut you? Each of us is crafted a little differently. For example, in my case, I would say that, what would you say for me? Yeah, something with the media. In this realm, media is actually more like press and journalism. Arts might be more multimedia in terms of creativity, but something in there somehow connected to education, although I never would have guessed it. But it's something about, something that I feel drawn to is getting involved in things that can inspire others in creative ways, in a nutshell. Okay? I could have gone towards science. I mean, I remember at school I could have gone a number of different ways, but those were the areas that I felt really called to. So just take a moment and write down numbers. Don't tick the boxes. Write down number 1, 2, and if you want, 3. Science and technology can include medicine. Environment could be, yeah, you could put that under there. There's thousands of categories, so these are really coarse and broad. But you could put environmental or medicine or health under science and tech. We should really include that there. Go ahead.
Well, it just seems like it should either be sports, entertainment, and arts, or arts and entertainment. I mean, I feel like entertainment is music and theater and things, which are more art and sport.
Yeah. So you can write it your way, actually. This is just there to give you an indication. This is this is actually one of the standard breakdowns, but I've found several different kinds. But don't get hung up on what it says here. It's a good point. Just write down what it is for you. You can even write down your subcategory and be more specific. You see the little note at the bottom of the page. It's something, if you wrote it on your chest and had a conversation with somebody, it'd be very revealing. When you get 10 people around a table to discuss how they want to witness, imagine doing that with the badge on or without the badge. You realize actually people are uniquely created to contribute their perspective for a reason. And when you bring it together harmoniously, it can be powerful. Okay? Next, I want you to turn to page 34. And this is to do with your strengths, okay? Strengths, what do I mean by strength? This doesn't necessarily have to be the same thing as your job. It doesn't necessarily have to be the same thing as your passion or your degree. It's your strengths as a person, your character traits, your abilities. And human beings are supposed to be, all of us, we're supposed to become geniuses by the end of our journey, if not already now, right? We should be great at many things. But if we look at each other, it's quite easy to note each other's strengths, if we know them a little bit. So I actually want you to ask somebody that knows you quite well this question. When you think of me, what stands out as some of my key strengths you feel God can use? So I want you to physically ask someone who knows you that question. If you have to call them, call them. But it should be somebody in the room. Milhan, Carlson, Jessica. When you think of me, what stands out as some of my key strengths? And just write down what they say. No, who are you now? Oh, this is a good one.
Yeah.
Sincere, authentic, empathetic, compassionate, creative, idea.
I said that because she really fights for an idea, fights. God needs fighters, like
Yeah.
you fight for the ideal.
Did you give her some? Oh, by text? If you need to text someone, you can text someone. You got 1.5 more minutes. 90 seconds. You have something? How many things? Yeah? Okay. Who are you asking? Who did you ask? Each of you physically needs to utter the words from your mouth to someone or text them and ask them that question. Some of you aren't talking. Did you guys at the back try it? Hi, guys. Hi. Hi. Do you know each other here? Not that well. Who do you know? Did you ask her? Why not? What's her name? Priscilla?
Hey, Miriam.
We need to help each other.
Hey, Miriam.
Can you help her? She needs to ask you a question. You have many. Where's your?
You didn't write.
You didn't ask? Did you ask her?
Yeah.
Did you say anything?
Yeah, she gave it to me.
You called her? Oh, fantastic. How does that feel? All right.
Collaborators. until we get it to
Did we get Wi-Fi, by the way?
No. I don't think anyone knows it.
Okay, maybe I got on. Maybe I figured it out. Hang on. Yeah, my phone.
Yeah.
It's a slow connection. So Carlson.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah, it is. Also, it'll take me a minute to set up my computer.
Okay. Please thank your partners. Okay. Did you learn anything about yourself? Or feel some comfort that actually you have some strength or more than you thought? More than you thought? Is it nice to hear from others? Yeah. It's yeah. It can be transforming, even just one conversation. Eternally. Right? Yeah. I did it once over the phone. I first sat down and thought about myself, and I thought, what are the things I really like? Not, you know. And then I phoned somebody on the other side of the country who knows me, and I said, "What do you think?" And then they actually started to explain things similar, but in another way, and even some part more deep, and kind of confirming. And it allowed me to own those strengths. You know, it really started to change the way I think about myself. So, you know, at the bottom you can write, there's 3 boxes. If you were to pick the top 3 strengths that you feel God really can work with, just write them down. It's not about just 3. You can have many, and they can be changing and growing. Right? Imagine if you were a pastor and you had this profile of everyone in your community. You know, the next one is passions. And I want you guys to, you can either do it with your family, or you can do it if you'd like after church on Sunday this week or next week if you want to do it in a group. But there's a lot of other exercises in this book that you're free to pursue. If you look briefly at page 35, you can see that there's a guided reflection on discovering your passions, what you'd love to do with your passions, and how you could actually practically manifest that. It's as if you were a divine being, uniquely gifted, extra blessed because of your association with true parents, okay? But you're a divine being, uniquely gifted with skills, strengths, and passions that it's not just optional, but probably if you're not tapping into them in some way, you're going to be missing the mark. So if it's about wanting to be a famous football star, like, okay, I get it. That might not be happening anymore in that way. But that can manifest in other ways. It might manifest in how you support young athletes or your children, or it may be that really it wasn't about the sport, it was about the teamwork that excited you. And now you're finding yourself really strong in the area of teamwork or building teams and project management or something like this. So be creatively flexible in how you can see yourself. And the more you are, the more you will be to others. And you can see that in this room alone, if you just took 20% of the people here, you could do anything. Let alone if you were all united on a common cause, where you were able to contribute your own uniqueness at the same time. That could be powerful, right? So that's the idea here, and it can be powerful to do it just alone or with your spouse. It can also be powerful to do it in a group and share with each other, right? I want to give you guys another 60 seconds to turn back to your partner and tell them now what your strengths are. I want you to own them. I want you to say, no, I am, and make it a sentence. I'm a dynamic educator that cares about young people, and I'm good at listening to them and their needs. Something, what if that's your, string it together and be proud of it. Okay, own it. Okay, another minute, go. Okay, guys. All right, how you guys doing? Yeah?
We're awake and it's after lunch. Yeah.
Is that okay? Are you ready to dance? Is it too early to dance? You could dance a little later. Okay, so we're going to transition. We're going to start getting more practical. But I want you to understand what we have looked at here so far today. It's not about doing the exercises, okay? Right? What are we trying to receive here is, be able to look at ourselves and each other with new eyes. Okay? And I know that many of you may already be thinking and already be feeling that way, right? But you have to realize the significance, okay, of what we're doing here. Okay? We came from headquarters to share this space with you guys. This isn't just our personal ideas that we're trying to take over and change things. This is honestly what we feel to be the writing on the wall. It's been on the wall for a long time, and there's space for this to actually occur, right? There's no one trying to stop this from happening. In other words, for you guys to be happy, for your children to be happy, for your uniqueness to not only be received but recognized as needed specifically to be able to fulfill all aspects of our providential calling, it's a good thing, right? And yes, I'd like some point today maybe to share a few testimonies, maybe hear a couple, but also the act of blessing people, reaching out to people is a significant, it's a substantial experience where you can experience God there, okay? But as we think about getting practical, okay, so I'm kind of hinting at stuff here. Like you guys could get around the table and really drum some great stuff together. You could think of some great things to do together where your skills and strengths are applied, and where the pastor's like recognizing this is part of a thriving, like this is how we want to operate, right? Healthy. But still, you might worry about, inviting others or, breaking the walls. That in many sense, we've been much busier building the walls than anybody outside our movement. There really isn't many people outside our movement that are giving us a hard time anymore. Okay? It's kind of just, we're busy giving ourselves a hard time internally. Okay? So it's actually, that's why the work is here. Right here. Okay? And from a healthy conversation, a healthy relationship that's growing and that can be honest, we can, if we unite with true parents, absolutely there's no problem in igniting the world with a higher degree of love, okay? So However, some of us might be a little shy. Raise your hand if somebody at the beginning, Heather, raised like 3 limbs about, it's a little bit, right? What is it? A little bit tricky to, what are we afraid of? Right? Mother said this specifically. Don't be afraid. What are you afraid of? Have absolute confidence. You know? But what are we afraid of practically? Tell me. What are we afraid of? Rejection. Why?
Because they know more than us. They're doing enough.
Oh, because they're better than me. Oh, I'm afraid of them looking down at me because actually they're doing better than me. So I'm kind of judging my. Okay. Why? Where else would we be afraid of rejection? It's painful, right? Right? Yes, Catherine.
It's not necessarily afraid of, but it's that that ourselves, that our claims, our words, our everything are not actually reflected in
Our lives.
in our lives.
Right.
You know, individually, family, corporately, the whole.
So we're afraid of being hypocritical or presenting something that
Afraid of being hypocritical. It's a statement. It's a fact.
we are hypocritical.
So that makes it difficult to make big claims.
Right. So we're not measuring up to our standards. Yes. Yeah.
He was asking why your church is fighting with Mrs. Muller and Sons.
Yeah. So why you guys can't get your act together, right? Yeah.
What did you say when I said that? I visit the minister.
Yeah.
He asked me what's going on at your church. Mrs. Muller and Sons are fighting for something.
And what did you say?
It's rather things to explain, but my understanding is Sam didn't understand Mother tongue. I told him that.
Yeah, which I'm sure he could relate to.
It's a big thing we're trying to do. It's a really even Father rejected the mission a few times, right? Right? It's a big thing that Father took on. It's a big thing that Mother took on. And even if you looked on the chart, maybe our percentage of that is very small, but to us it feels maybe equally huge, right? It's a big deal, what we're apparently trying to do. And we don't live up to the idea that we're trying to sell. And I don't think we have to pretend that we are. Neither should we put ourselves down because of that, because we're trying, you know. We're trying to stand for something and figure it out along the way. So there's many reasons why we might feel a little bit insecure. And in that moment where you reach out to someone, you're scared of, in a sense, maybe it's the mirror that you're scared of. It's something imagined usually, actually. Usually it's something that I imagine might happen or they might think, and it's usually related to my own concepts. Really. So what if there was a way of cleaning that out? Yeah? Anyway, I want to invite up for the next presentation, Milhan Stevens, Secretary General, Subregion 1. Please give him a round of applause.
So we decided last night to play this TED Talk that I was really inspired by. Before I do that, I want to give a little context. So the other day, Psyche was giving me a hard time, my wife, because I had too many things going on, and every night I was on a conference call of some kind. And so I'm like, okay, I had to do something, right? I had to say something, because she was right. So I'm like, okay, I put everything in order, from the least priority to the highest priority. And it was I just listed all these things which I knew were really, really important, right? Right, Demian? All those things. And at the very top was tribe Messiahship. And I think we were both very honest about that. And what were we actually doing about it? Honestly, nothing. And why? And it's this fear. Guys, the secret is no one out there cares about your perfect life, which you don't even have. So please be yourself. We're all here. We all have 100 million different issues. Use that. because that's what they're dealing with, and probably 100 times worse. So really, it just comes down to fear. That's all it comes down to. So if we can rise above the fear, we got it made. So this TED Talk talks about fear of rejection. It's powerful, it's hilarious. I think you're gonna enjoy it. And I want you to think about your life. And I want you to see how many, I could string 100 parallels with what he's saying. So think about that. All right, enjoy.
Great. Yes. Yes.
When I was 6-year-old, I received my gifts. My first grade teacher had this brilliant idea. She wanted us to experience receiving gifts, but also learning the virtue of complimenting each other. So she had all of us come to the front of the classroom, and she bought all of us gifts and stacked them in the corner. And she said, why don't we just stand here and compliment each other? If you hear your name called, go and pick up your gifts and sit down. What a wonderful idea, right? What could go wrong? Well, there were 40 of us to start with, and every time when I hear someone's name called, I would give out the heartiest cheer. And then there were 20 people left, and 10 people left, and 5 left, and 3 left. I was one of them. And the compliments stopped. Well, at that moment, I was crying, and the teacher was freaking out. And she was like, hey, would anyone say anything nice about these people? No one? Okay, why don't you go get your gift and sit down, so behave next year, someone might say something nice about you. Well, as I'm describing this to you, you probably know I remember this really well. But I don't know who felt worse that day. Was that me or the teacher? She must realize that she turned a team building event into a public roast for 3 6-year-olds. And without the humor, when you see people get roasted on TV, it was funny. There was nothing funny about that day. So that was one version of me, and I would die to avoid being in that situation again, to get rejected in public again. That's one version. Then fast forward 8 years, Bill Gates came to my hometown, Beijing, China, to speak, and I saw his message. I fell in love with that guy. I thought, wow, I know what I want to do now. That night, I wrote a letter to my family telling them by age 25, I will build the biggest company in the world, and that company will buy Microsoft. I totally embraced this idea of conquering the world, domination, right? And I didn't make this up. I did write that letter, and here it is. You don't have to read this through, and this is also bad handwriting, but I did highlight some keywords. You get the idea. So that was another version of me wanting to conquer the world. Well, then 2 years later, I was presented with the opportunity to come to the United States. I jumped on it, and because that was where Bill Gates lived, right? So I thought that was the start of my entrepreneur journey. Then fast forward another 14 years, I was 30. Nope, I didn't build that company. I didn't even start. I was actually a marketing manager for a Fortune 500 company, and I felt I was stuck. I was stagnant. Why is that? Where is that 14-year-old who wrote that letter? It's not because he didn't try. It's because every time I had a new idea, every time I wanted to try something new, even at work, I wanted to make a proposal, I wanted to speak up in front of people in a group, I felt there was this constant battle between the 14-year-old and the 6-year-old. One wanted to conquer the world, make a difference. Another was afraid of rejection. And every time, that 6-year-old won. And this fear even persisted after I started my own company. I mean, I started my own company when I was 30. If you want to be Bill Gates, you got to start sooner or later, right? When I was an entrepreneur, I was presented with an investment opportunity. And then I was turned down. And that rejection hurt me. It hurt me so bad that I wanted to quit right there. But then I thought, hey, would Bill Gates quit after a simple investment rejection? Would any successful entrepreneur quit like that? No way. And this is where it clicked for me. Okay, I can build a better company, I can build a better team or better product, but one thing for sure, I could be a better leader. I could be a better person. I cannot let that 6-year-old keep dictating my life anymore. I have to put him back to his place. So this is where I went online and looked for help. Google was my friend. I searched, how do I overcome the fear of rejection? I came up with a bunch of psychology articles about where the fear and pain are coming from. Then I came up with a bunch of rah-rah inspirational articles about, don't take it personally, just overcome it. Who doesn't know that? But why was I still so scared? Then I found this website by luck. It's called rejectiontherapy.com. Rejection therapy was this game invented by this Canadian entrepreneur. His name is Jason Comley. And it's basically the idea is for 30 days, you go out and look for rejection. And every day get rejected at something, and by the end, you desensitize yourself from the pain. And I love that idea. I said, you know what, I'm gonna do this, and I'll film myself getting rejected 100 days. And I came up with my own rejection ideas, and I'll make a video blog out of it. And so here's what I did. This is what the blog looked like. Day one. Borrow $100 from stranger. So this is where I went to where I was working. I came downstairs and saw this big guy sitting behind the desk. You know, he looked like a security guard. So I just approached him, and I was just walking, and that was the longest walk in my life. I just hair at the back of my neck, standing up. I was sweating, and my heart was pounding. And I got there and said, "Hey, sir, can I borrow $100 from you?" And he looked up. He's like, "No." Why? And I said, "No, I'm sorry." Then I turned around and just ran. I felt so embarrassed. But because I filmed myself, so that night I was watching myself getting rejected, I just saw how scared I was. I looked like this kid in Sixth Sense. I saw dead people. But then I saw this guy, he wasn't that menacing. He was a chubby, lovable guy, and he even asked me why. In fact, he invited me to explain myself. And I could have said many things. I could have explained, I could have negotiated. I didn't do any of that. All I did was run. I felt, wow, this is like a microcosm of my life. Every time I feel the slightest rejection, I would just run as fast as I could. And you know what? The next day, no matter what happens, I'm not gonna run. I'll stay engaged. Day 2, request a burger refill. This is where I finished, went to a burger joint, I finished lunch, and I went to the cashier and said, "Hey, can I get a burger refill?" And he was all confused. I was like, "What's a burger refill?" I said, "Well, just like a drink refill, but what's a burger?" And he said, "Sorry, we don't do a burger refill, man." So this is where rejection happened. I could have run, but I stayed. I said, "Well, I love your burger, I love your joint, and if you guys do a burger refill, I would love you guys more." And he said, "Well, okay, I'll tell my manager about it. Well, maybe we'll do it, but sorry, we can't do this today." Then I left. And by the way, I don't think they ever done burger refill. I think they're still there. But the life and death feeling I was feeling the first time was no longer there, just because I stayed engaged, because I didn't run. I said, "Wow, great, I'm already learning things." Great. And then day 3, getting Olympic donuts. This is where my life was turned upside down. I went to a Krispy Kreme. It's a donut shop mainly in the southeastern part of the United States. I'm sure they have some here too. And I went in and said, "Can you make me donuts that look like Olympic symbols?" Basically, you interlink 5 donuts together. I mean, there's no way they could say yes, right? The donut maker took me so seriously. So she put out a paper, started jotting down the colors and the rings. It's like, how could I make this? And then 15 minutes later, she came out with a box that looked like Olympic rings. And I was so touched. And I just couldn't believe it. And that video got over 5 million views on YouTube. The world couldn't believe that either. And because of that, I was on in newspapers and talk shows and everything, and I became famous. A lot of people started writing emails to me and saying, what you're doing is awesome. But fame and notoriety did not do anything to me. What I really want to do was learn and to change myself. So I turned the rest of my 100 days rejection into this playground, into this research project. I wanted to learn, see what I can learn. And then I learned a lot of things. I discovered so many secrets. For example, I found if I just don't run, if I got rejected, I could actually turn a no into a yes. And the magic word is why. So one day I went to a stranger's house, I had this flower in my hand, and I said, knocked on the door, I said, hey, can I plant this flower in your backyard? and he said, no. But before he could leave, I said, hey, can I know why? And he said, well, I have this dog that would dig up anything I put in the backyard. I don't want to waste your flower. If you don't do this, go across the street and talk to Connie. She loves flowers. So that's what I did. I went across and knocked on Connie's door, and she was so happy to see me. And then half an hour later, there's this flower in Connie's backyard. I'm sure it looks better now. But had I left after the initial rejection, I would have thought, well, it's because the guy didn't trust me, it's because I was crazy, because I didn't dress up well, I didn't look good. It was none of those. It was because what I offered did not fit what he wanted. And he trusted me enough to offer me a referral, using sales term. I converted that referral. Then one day, I also learned that I can actually say certain things and maximize my chance to get a yes. So for example, one day I went to a Starbucks and asked the manager, hey, can I be a Starbucks greeter? He was like, what's a Starbucks greeter? I said, do you know those Walmart greeters? Those people who say hi to you before you walk in the store and make sure you don't steal stuff, basically. And I want to give a Walmart experience to Starbucks customers. Well, I'm not sure that's a good thing, actually. Actually, I'm pretty sure it's a bad thing. And he was like, oh, yeah, this is how he looked. His name is Eric. He's like, I'm not sure. This is how he was hearing me. I'm not sure. Then I asked him, is that weird? He's like, yeah, it's really weird, man. But as soon as he said that, his whole demeanor changed. It's as if he's putting all the doubt on the floor. And he said, yeah, you can do this, and just don't get too weird. So for the next hour, I was the Starbucks greeter. I said hi to every customer that walked in and give them holiday cheers. By the way, I don't know what your career trajectory is. Don't be a greeter. It was really boring. But then I found I could do this because I mentioned, is that weird? I mentioned a doubt that he was having. And because I mentioned, is that weird? That means I wasn't weird. That means I was actually thinking just like him, seeing this as a weird thing. And again, I learned that if I mention some doubt people might have before I ask the question, I gain their trust. People will more likely to say yes to me. And then I learned I could fulfill my life dream by asking. I came from 4 generations of teachers. And my grandma has always told me, hey, Jia, you can do anything you want, but it'd be great if you become a teacher. But I want to be an entrepreneur, so I didn't. But it has always been my dream to actually teach something. So I said, what if I just ask and teach a college class? So I lived in Austin at the time, so I went to University of Texas in Austin, knocked on professors' doors and said, can I teach your class? Well, I didn't get anywhere the first couple times. But because I didn't run, I kept doing it. And on the 3rd try, the professor was very impressed. It's like, no one has done this before. And I came in prepared with the PowerPoints and my lesson. It's like, wow, I can use this. Well, when you come back in 2 months, I'll fit you in my curriculum. And 2 months later, I was teaching a class. This is me. You probably can't see this as a bad picture. Sometimes you get rejected by lighting, But when I finished teaching that class, I walked out crying because I thought I could just fulfill my life dream just by simply asking. I used to think I have to accomplish all these things, I have to be a great entrepreneur or get a PhD to teach. But no, I just asked and I could teach. And in that picture, which you can't see, I quoted Martin Luther King Jr. Why? Because in my research, I found the people who really changed the world, who changed the way we live and the way we think, are the people who were met with initial and often violent rejections. People like Martin Luther King Jr., like Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, or even Jesus Christ. These people did not let rejection define them. They let their own reaction after rejection define themselves. And they embrace rejection. And we don't have to be those people to learn about rejection. And in my case, rejection was my curse, was my boogeyman. It has bothered me my whole life because I was running away from it. Then I started embracing it. I turned that into the biggest gift in my life. I started teaching people how to turn rejections into opportunities. I used my blog, I used my talk, I used the book I just published, and I'm even building technology to help people overcome their fear of rejection. When you get rejected in life, when you are facing the next obstacle or next failure, consider the possibilities. Don't run. If you just embrace them, they might become your gifts as well. Thank you.
Okay. Let's give a hand to our speaker today. Does everyone know the Hoffmans, Dennis and Mayuri Hoffman? So they're one of the big tribe messiahs, and I listened to her talk to me for an hour. Basically, her testimony is absolute faith. If your parents said you had to be hungry when you're witnessing, they were hungry when they were witnessing, and they did everything to the letter. And I asked him about rejection because I had just watched this recently. And he told me, Milhan, if I don't get 4 rejections a day, I'm not doing my job. I was like, man, that's powerful. I like that. So I play Pokemon Go. It's funny, all this headquarters staff used to play it, and Jessica almost till the end, but I was the only one that kept with it. And now there's this thing where in the city you can meet up with other people who play the game. And what I started doing is whenever I meet up, I just ask people, can I pray for you? And you get different reactions, and half of them are kind of like, I'm not from here, leave me alone. But there were a few times where they're like, yeah, sure. And this one lady who was like, yeah, I don't believe in that stuff, don't waste your time. But I stayed there, I just kept going, and she's like, yeah, sure, if you want to waste your time and pray for me, that's fine. And so I prayed for her, and God's love for her and her family and her friends, and she told me, that was nice, It's so silly, right? Our fears. I mean, no one's going to kill us. I mean, we're not living in Jesus' time where you literally would be killed. So it's almost funny now what we deal with, and that's your mother saying. She's like, "What are you afraid of?" It's comical. So I mean, I want to do an exercise. Demian gave me permission to do this. So I'd like to repeat that exercise you did earlier about just sharing why you're in this movement, and then afterwards ask if you can bless them. Okay. But this time, the person who's hearing this, just say no. Just say no, thank you. Say however you like, but just tell them no. Okay. So reject them. So have fun with it. I mean, how much time we have? Like what? 10 minutes. 10 minutes.
You're supposed to try to overcome the rejection, or just be rejected.
You're going into rejection, but do what you do. Tell why you're in this movement, and I'd like to bless you. But experiment with it.
If you can overcome it, then even better, and then you give testimony after how you did it.
Yeah, maybe do that. Maybe do that for 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and share how that went. Okay. So please stand up. Okay, and go to anyone. Doesn't matter. I think anyone can say no. It's pretty easy. So.
It's good to come.
Share.
No, because you couple them. It's not just there. It's not just a couple of there. Personal testimony. Quickly, get through this part. They already mentioned step 5. But actually,
A little more innovative, right? Maybe you felt kind of something similar. I was with Jessica, and she was never convinced. She never said no. I was like, she's really pulling it all out of me. So, but finally, yeah, I was learning a lot about how to do this. So, thank you. So, would anyone like to share what they learned or? Thank you. Why? No. Okay. You know, so funny that this reminds me of like, I never did STF or anything, but I remember one time I was going door to door fundraising for me to go to Korea, and I'll never forget this one guy was like, "Get a job," and just like slammed the door. It was a good experience. Okay, so who'd like to? Someone wants to share. Come up here and what did you learn? And or like to say who has this burning.
Start with Heather. Come on, Heather.
Okay, Heather. Please.
She's PG-13.
Who am I asking?
Oh no, you're just kidding. We're
not role.
I'll be role playing.
I'm just saying.
Okay, come up here then.
Okay.
Oh, she wants to role play.
So, we're in Walmart. Just to give you the environmental context for this. Yeah. I just was wondering whether you'd be open to having a discussion about what could be an incredibly transformative sexual experience. I'm talking to people today about true love, and I'm identifying that a lot of the problems in this world come down to misuse of sexual love. And I was wondering if you'd like to learn more about how to resolve that. But not with me, because I'm married.
Thank you. Or as my wife would say, no thank you very much. Okay, now.
Sex has never been a problem for you.
Oh, now I feel, okay. Say what you said to me before.
Oh yeah, the other one, the other one. Excuse me, do you have a minute? I belong to this kind of cult, and we're meant to actually have 430 people drink the holy wine, and I can't go back to the center until I have 430, and I was just wondering if you would drink this for me.
What is it?
It is Cheongil-guk holy wine.
Okay, what does it do to me?
It will totally transform you. You will be closer to God. You will resolve all of your original sin. Life will get better.
Okay, but do I have to do what you're doing?
Actually, do you have a partner? Actually, a big thing about this is you have to have a partner. Do you have, like, a wife?
Carlson?
Yeah, like, that might be a little bit difficult.
We just got married.
You just got... Hi, Carlson. Have you ever thought of having a transgender operation? It could work. So maybe I'll take that back. And
I'd like to help you, though. Can I help you?
do you have any friends or relatives?
I have 430 friends.
You have 430 friends?
Yeah, and I'm just so inspired by your honesty.
You know, I just wonder if you could actually bring them to a location.
Any location.
Any location. You just tell me where. I'll show up with 430 cups.
I can do it before dinner.
Excellent.
Okay.
That's me.
See how it works? Okay, thank you. Give Heather a round of applause.
Ideally, you do a yes scenario also. The same thing, but anyway.
You're actually running it.
I just wanted to share something.
Yeah, okay, we're good.
Although you did. There's one sister in the Philippines, Merly. People might know her. In Bohol, and she shared with me that the person who helped her the most in her community with blessing people was a gay guy. Wow. And it was so hard for her because she had such a hard time with his lifestyle. And she went into his house and she said, I had to sit on his toilet seat and the whole thing, like, but that's the person that God sent to her to help her. And then when there was GPA kids that went to Bohol and they helped to bring people to a blessing, and then they had a blessing, and then afterwards this guy would go around to the couples, you're not having sex yet, you're doing your 40 days, right? And he would he would literally like do that. So I just, because that happened, it just suddenly came to me that you never know who might help you.
Apparently she didn't even know until like after he had been counseling all her tribe on the 3-day ceremony. She didn't know that he was gay until later.
Until later, I didn't know that, but.
But well, give everybody your one-liner.
What was this was my idea actually, because we were talking and then we just joked and I thought, well, hi, are you interested in a spiritually transformative sexual encounter with your mate? Or something like just go right to the 3-day ceremony. Rather than worry about how to get there, just go right to that. So I don't know, I feel like we might be able to come up with a line that would so like jolt people that they would like, what are you talking about? So I don't know.
It's so funny how important the context is. Like if you literally go up to somebody in Walmart and say, "Excuse me, are you interested in a 3-day transformative sexual experience?" You know, it's like, right? The context matters, right? But I like the idea because, hang on. Right now it's so, do you remember the first time you heard about the 3-day ceremony?
Yeah.
Maybe it was great, but I remember the first time I heard about it, it was like, shh. It was unclear. It wasn't. But actually, what if it was what we started with in some way? Like, no, this is what we're going to get to, and it's really where your whole life is going to turn around. If we got to do it, let's do it right. So anyway, round of applause for the creative ladies.
Okay, so 2 more minutes. Let's do this again, but this time the other person says yes.
Was the same person?
Yeah, same person, whoever. Yeah, whoever. Okay, so stand up. So same thing again, but this time they say yes. Go, just 2 minutes, because I'm already over time.
How do you enjoy your rejection session? Huh? This is the session on rejection and overcoming rejection and having little victories. Did you guys have a few victories? Yes. Okay, let's give Milhan a round of applause. Thank you, Milhan. And I think we're all going to, I don't know, I might try that 100. I like doing that kind of thing anyway. Actually, I usually do that kind of thing anyway. Actually, there's another way to approach this, and I shared this story with some of you. Sometimes I'll just like put the burden of proof on them, right? So I don't ask. It's like there was a couple times I tried it, and last time I mentioned this, other people started trying it, like in taxis or Uber. I got this Uber once. I got into the Uber and like. The first one was like 30-minute ride, 25 minutes I'm listening to her life story and why she's studying, what she wants to do with her life, and I'm genuinely interested. And I knew the question was going to come back, and at the end the question was, so what do you do? And I was on my way to one of these workshops, so I said, what I do is I go into a community and I walk, maybe 30 or 100 people through a process of really self-realization where they can realize how they want to really work together to substantially transform their town where they live for the better. Oh, really? What's it called? It's called Tribal Messiahship. Where do I sign up? So it's something about just actually doing something and explaining it in a way. But then I thought, this is a good venue, the Uber driver. So the next time I get into the Uber, there's this South American guy, he's from Brazil. So did I share this with you? I'm in the car, and like, we're talking. Where do you live? I live there. He has an accent. I said, where are you from? I'm from Brazil. Oh, you're from Brazil. I'm sitting in the back of the car. He's driving. So we're looking through the rear view mirror, right? I'm kind of playing with my phone a little bit, talking to him. He says, yeah, I'm from Brazil. Brazil? Oh. So you must know true parents. Right? And he's driving. You look at me. Excuse me? Yeah, you're from Brazil. Did you say you're from Brazil? Yeah. So you must know true parents. Right? And he's starting a little bit, bead of sweat developing. Like, True parents, Reverend and Mrs. Moon, right? What country, what part of Brazil are you from? Okay. Well, so they bought all this land, and it's like this and like that, and it's huge. You must have heard of them. Surely, don't tell me. He's like, well, and then I'm like, I just cut to divine principle. Excuse me? Divine principle. Now, don't tell me you don't know the divine principle. Now the guy's like, he's worried. He's like really sweating. He doesn't know which way to go. I'm like, come on. You're from Brazil. You've got to know true parents and the divine principle. I go through the entire divine principle in like 60 seconds. From Adam and Eve to now, and who true parents are, and that you're close to you, and where you come from, and how that on earth can you not know? He gets to the point where, actually, maybe I do know. So, well, give me a number. What? Give me your number so I can contact you. Oh, okay. Yeah. Actually, my sister is coming from Brazil. I think she knows. Yeah, so give me a number. We're going to meet. Okay? So fooling around. Hurry up, because I'm late for the airplane or whatever. So anyway, the point is, you don't have to be mean, but it's like you shift the burden of proof on them. It's like, no, I'm not here to try and convince you. You're the one. It's not me that's got to be. No, you're the one that you haven't read, that you haven't heard. What are you doing? Where have you been? Right? So anyway, that's kind of funny. But I think it's time for a break. After the break, we're going to come back, and we're going to look at some practical tools that we have available to help you. And we also want to do today, kind of along the lines of what we were just doing, we actually want to conduct a blessing ceremony today. Okay? Better than we were doing. Okay? And how we're going to do that is maybe we'll role model it once, and we'll, give you the tools necessary to be able to then practice together. And just kind of get into the, I know you guys done this maybe, but it's like just get back into that. So kind of removing the concepts or obstacles that we sometimes stop us from going. So that's going to be the main part of after the break. But for now, let's close with a prayer. And Antonella, would you like to pray? In Italian? If you like, it's fine. Italiano.
Good afternoon, Heavenly Parents. We're so blessed. We're so grateful to you. We're having such a wonderful day to listen to our brother and sister. They have so much confidence. They can teach, they can share their experience, their love, their confidence with us. We can really go out and change mind and heart. We all have a strong desire to do your will, to let people know about you, about our precious true parents. But we need to build up the confidence in ourselves, to overcome the fear of rejection, and know what to do, how to handle it. Heavenly Parents, we promise that we will listen, open our heart and mind, so we can really work in our life, and we can receive your understanding, your spirit, and we can go out from this workshop, change, redetermine, with tools to accomplish our responsibilities as a tribal Messiah. Because above all, we really want to bring joy. We want to comfort our precious true brother. We thank you, Father, for this opportunity for this beautiful day. In our name, Peter and Antonella Perry, blessed family. Adieu.
All right, let's